So we're finally going to get a chance to see your studio. I'm really excited.
Yes, I'm excited too.
Let's check it out.
Yay, welcome to my mind and my world.
Awesome, I can't wait. This is a beautiful experience. So this is the place, huh? It's beautiful.
This is it.
I love it.
This is it.
I
Thank
love
you
it.
for
So-
stopping by.
Well, thank you for having us. So I think the audience is pretty excited to be here. Thank you for being here once again. My name is Miguel Valenzuela, and this is Creative Thinkers. And we're here with Laura Turon here at her studio up in New Mexico. So I want to start by asking you a few questions about who you are, introduce yourself to the public so they can understand a little bit more about you. So tell us, where did you grow up? Are you from El Paso?
I grew up in Acapulco. I was born in El Paso, so I'm Mexican American. I grew up in Acapulco. Most of my childhood I spent there, which is in the south of Mexico in the Beach Bay area. So
I
it
can
was
imagine
really
that's
nice.
beautiful,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, and then from my house I could see like the sunset and the bay and everything. So it was really nice.
Did that lend you or bring you to becoming or seeing things differently, more creative, whatnot?
I think while growing up, it was a great experience, you know, being able to look at the view, being in touch with nature and being able to appreciate the beauty in things. And somehow, like, my art focuses on that, being able to appreciate moments, being able to not forget about every second that you live or make the most of everything.
So every little piece then becomes something for you.
Yes. Mhm.
Nice, nice.
And then also a lot of my pieces are ephemeral. So for example, when I do an art installation in the bus, it's there, it exists, and then I remove it and it ceases to exist. So in a way, like, it kind of compares to like the sunrise and the sunset, like it exists and then it always
So a
comes
never-ending
back.
transition to things.
Mhm. It's a different day, but then it could be like a different art piece. Mhm.
Very nice. And when you were growing up, were you influenced by other artists? Were you always into art? Did you kind of start doing one thing one point and then transition into something else?
I always liked art. Like I was always into coloring books, and then I started doing drawings by myself. I will draw cartoons or the cartoons that I will see on TV. My father was a singer, so I was always surrounded by creativity. I will see him rehearse, practice, and I think that influenced somehow my perseverance and my motivation, because I will always see the discipline of my father working on his music, and then later on in life that has been an inspiration to me when I'm working on a piece.
And how about your education? Did you study in Mexico? Did you study in the United States? Was it kind of like a transition, half and half, just like your work?
I studied in Mexico a little bit. I actually dropped out of school when I was 13 years old and then began self-taught. I started being self-taught. I taught myself how to speak English, and then I started focusing 100% on my interest, which were mainly art. My first portrait that I did was because I was trying to push myself in art, something that I was very interested in. And I was 13 years old, and then I started drawing then. And from there, every single day, all of my teenage years, I spent drawing. Most of my time, I will spend hours drawing and drawing. So I will study things that I was interested in, and I will also study languages, like I said, English. I will study things that I was interested, but 100%.
So just being self-taught, I think, is an interesting thing, which is something that I think lends itself a lot to the creative aspect of what everybody does, right? So then you end up here in El Paso. Do you study at the university in El Paso, or what do you do?
Yes, I came to El Paso, and then I applied for the GED. I got a GED. I studied for the test, and then I passed it, and then I applied to EPCC. I passed the Acuplacer test, and then I was in college credit already. I was only behind 2 math classes. I did 2 math remedials. So in general, like, all the time that I spent studying by myself, it kind of helped as well.
So you started EPCC, then you transitioned into UTEP. And
Yes.
what do you do? Do you immediately start in the art program? Were you kind of testing the waters at first, or what did you do?
At first, I was kind of testing the waters, and I always saw myself as an artist, and I thought I could teach myself everything I could about art. So when I started in EPCC, I was pursuing an engineering degree. So later on, I took some art elective classes, and one of my instructors suggested, maybe you should change your major to art. Like, there's options, there's possibilities. Like, in my mind, I was like, oh, I can still do art and do other things, but I didn't think I could have like a career of art, doing art only. So talking to him kind of like opened my mind about all the possibilities and all the things that I could do. And I started contemplating art as a career. So after a semester or two, I switched my major to art. And
into fine arts. So what did you study? Did you have a major in painting, sculpture?
Yes, I transferred to UTEP, and I have a double major. I have a drawing and graphic design major, a minor in painting, and a certificate in exhibition practices.
Oh, very nice. Tell us a little bit about how you made the not just transition, but how the education that you had has helped you in your career as an artist. Because I think a lot of times there are students that might think of switching from art, which might be something that they're really into engineering or sciences or anything else, and getting away from the whole art thing. But how did going to school help you to become an artist, a professional artist? Because I see you got a lot of work here.
Well, it pretty much opened my mind about developing concepts and analyzing my work and looking into detail, like craftsmanship, like paying attention to every single aspect of your piece. That it's not only the big thing, it's also the details. So also in there, I learned a lot about discipline and commitment. By creating an art piece, I learned that, okay, I have this concept. In the beginning, I was like, I can do pieces like in 1 week or one day to another, and I present it as my work. But later on in school, I did learn that your art and the art that you present is like presenting yourself.
Correct.
And you need to present yourself always as professional as possible. So those are some of the things that helped me in school, and mainly think about all my concepts. It's kind of like an introspection. Like in school, it was more about finding myself as an artist and having the guidance from the instructors and feedback and critiques from my peers and everything. That helped me a lot into finding myself and finding my voice as an artist.
So looking for your aesthetic, what you believe is beautiful,
Yes.
creative as well. Talk to us about your art, because we're sitting here in front of some really cool pieces. They're a little different, and maybe you can tell us how you created these. Maybe I can even help you.
Yes,
right?
of course.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that one. I think that one's very nice, it's very geometric.
Yes, so this piece focuses on a series of straight lines, creating the optical illusion of curves and pattern and dimension. So this is based off a drawing system called paradox drawing. I started working on this drawing system because I was working in the concept of time. I will make tally marks. I will draw one line at a time, and I will keep count. And I will create these large compositions. And my concept in there was making every second count. So later on, I started doing more research on the concept of time paradox. And it really caught my attention because it was like kind of combining science, combining art.
So your work is also very analytical.
It is.
Would that be correct and accurate? Do you think a lot about the work before you create the work? So a large part of it is kind of figuring things out before you start the work? Or is it more of a fluid thing where you start working on it and then it just kind of flows into something else?
Most of the time I develop the concept first. So I do research, a lot of research, and trying to find how I want to explain the message. Coming back to this piece, I was doing more research on the time paradox concept, but I wasn't finding the right way of interpret it. So I decided to do research on the word paradox itself, which is something that's self-contradictory that can be proven to be true when explained. And I was like, oh wow, that's like an explanation of art, another way of defining art. And I decided to do more research on the paradox word itself, and that's when I ran into this drawing system, and I decided to make large compositions following this basic drawing system.
And what is that basic drawing system?
So pretty much you create like straight lines, and you put them kind of like going in a spiral motion, kind of like putting a triangle within a triangle or a square within a square.
And building up little by little.
And building it up little by little. So with this piece, I use tape. I create each line with a tape, and then after that, I get the spray paint and I spray paint it.
And when you're done, do you exhibit these in different places? Is this something that you do for yourself?
I try to exhibit them in different places. I have had some pieces this summer at the Museum of Art. I was actually an artist in resident in there.
Nice.
So I did a residency in there, and people could walk in, look at my art, and look at me work. And I also did a community art installation. I also do that a lot, where we added some tape on some windows to create a non-objective abstract piece. So people from the community could go in and learn about my drawing processes, and that process in particular was the deconstructive drawing, where I paint with, I color with pastels on paper, and then I put tape on top to pick up the pigment, and then put the tape on the windows. So together, hundreds of people went and visited and helped me build that art
Oh, so
installation.
it's a community effort sometimes.
Yes.
I think that's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about this piece right here, so you can actually show us how you work.
Yes, on this piece, this is the design is based off a collaboration with scientists from UTEP from the EM lab. So we're doing optical illusions, where I have a hidden word in this piece, and the points to mark where the hidden word is going to be is done through the spatially variant lattice algorithm that they developed. So this is a flat interpretation, kind of like what you see in the bus and the structure that I showed you guys.
Which we will look at momentarily. So what do I do? Can you tell me a little bit about this? Like,
Yeah.
do I just start cutting? I don't want to make any mistakes.
So when I was doing my residency at the Museum of Art, I also invited people to help me. So this is pretty much a vinyl stencil, and I project the image and then trace each little circle, and then I cut out around each circle that I made, to create the pattern. I try not to press too hard to not damage the surface, but just hard enough to cut through the vinyl. So in the museum, a few people helped me create some of the art pieces, and it was pretty exciting because people was learning about how to create art in this way. So
And also you get to connect with the community, which I think is very important, especially in our times today when we're having so many things happen in our community. When you do this, do you think of incorporating the public right away, or is that something, wow, I got like 10 million dots here, I need a little bit of help? How does that work?
Well, part of my concepts or my mission as an artist is to bring art to people and to inspire them to do different things. Like maybe going inside the bus inspires them to, I don't know, do an event, or maybe it just brightens their days. Like sometimes art can change your mood. And the feedback from the people that I get when they participate in my workshops or they help me with my art is that it's a very calming and relaxing experience, that they get into like a meditation mode because it's a very precise and detailed and repetitive experience. So I get that a lot. So I also had people walk inside the bus and tell me, you know what, I was having a really bad day, but I experienced this environment, and now I'm
my whole attitude
happy.
changed.
Like everything changed. Like I feel good. So
that's great. These pieces are pieces that you handcraft. When you're handcrafting, and because our show is called Creative Thinkers, are you an individual that is focusing on the creative aspect while you're focusing on the engineering and all of those other things? And how does the creativity help you as an individual?
Well, I focus more in the creative part, and the way I push my creativity is by learning and talking to other people. In the case with the engineers, they learn my perception of, let's say, the algorithm through art. Like they learn from me, and I learn from them as well.
So it's a dual education
It's dual
process.
education, so it's constantly learning, and it also opens your mind to different ideas, perceptions, and maybe working bigger, pushing yourself. Also, when I work with people, people tend to also tell me their own stories about, oh, I did this, I did that drawing. So I think it's constant feedback from other artists, the community, people that I collaborate with, and I try to not keep inside one field. I like to explore different things.
So now that we've been looking at this artwork, is there anything that had led you from when you were a child through the creative process?
Yes, when I was a little girl, I saw my cousin draw a wolf, and it was pretty hyper-realistic. And that was my first time looking at an art piece that was actually drawn by someone other than the coloring books. And I told myself, well, he can do it, I can do it. So I kept on drawing and drawing and drawing. Then also in school, I will take notes by drawings. And at first,
nice.
I thought I was gonna get in trouble, but my teacher was like, let me see your notes, because they will grade it. And then they saw it, she saw it, and she saw the detail of the drawings with instructions and everything. And she gave me a good grade. So that kind of also encouraged me to keep on drawing and being creative, and kept on working on more drawings and little by little, like working more.
So do you think that you were a visual learner at that point?
I think I was a visual. I always consider myself a visual learner. I always look at how things are done and try to figure out how to do it, and I always learn. And next thing you know, I'm taking out the seats of the bus, and I'm putting walls up and painting it and turning it into an art piece.
So this is an awesome piece. So now we can transition, look at your bus from the inside, right?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so first I want to ask you a question about how you came up with this concept. It's beautiful, by the way. Where are we?
Well, this is the interior of the Paradox Traveling Art Bus, and the concept itself is a collaboration with scientists from UTEP from the EM lab. So I got together with them to come up with an art installation to create the design of the interior of what they call a spatially variant lattice, which is an algorithm for structures that are used to manipulate electromagnetic waves. So walking inside of the bus right now in this art installation is kind of like walking inside of a photonic crystal that bends light.
So we are like light right now.
It could be like light or electromagnetic waves.
Very nice, very nice. So these designs themselves and what we see in the back, those three-dimensional elements, that's what you're talking about.
Yes, the design on the walls, on the floor. So those three-dimensional elements is kind of like what it will be inside that structure. So on the walls is a flat interpretation of those structures, and then the walls have a little bit of shading. So it will be as if we cut the middle part of that structure and you can walk in.
And this art bus, is it something that stays at your studio? Can it be taken other places? Do people interact with it, or is it just for me?
No, I park it in my studio, that's where I keep it, but I take it to schools, I take it to events, and the whole concept and idea of this art piece or this project that I have is to take art that have limited or no access to art, that has no galleries, that has no museums, small towns.
And then how do they react to this incredible piece?
Well, sometimes it's the first time that they ever seen an art installation. So sometimes I have taken it to schools like Chaparral, or over here in a small town near in between Las Cruces and El Paso, and then the children, they walk in and they're like, whoa, like I've never seen anything like this before, like I've never experienced art like this. And I tell people that it's them walking inside the art installation and not only looking and experiencing a different world or environment, it's also them becoming part of the art. So I encourage them to take pictures, videos, selfies, and interact with the space as a whole.
So in your opinion, do you think that the creative aspect is something that will help these children out in the future?
I think it helps in a way of thinking how to express themselves differently, or the things that are possible. You know, sometimes they just have, I don't know, a limited idea that art only belongs on a frame, on a picture, on a piece of paper, photography. But looking at something like this and what someone is capable of doing is like, whoa, that's so big. I can walk inside, and this is like my school bus, the one that I go to school in, and they're like, I can do that. Like
so the imagination, I think, is also a big part. And do you feel like you're instilling this in the children and maybe that will help them out in the future?
Yes, and then they always have a lot of questions, and not only intrigued about art, but the process of building it. So they get to learn about what's behind the scene of the art. So I tell them, like, there were seats in here, I took them out. So I figured out ways on how to bring art to you guys. And then they're very happy about it.
So tell us the history about the bus. Is this the only installation that you had in here?
This is the third art installation that I have. The first one was based off an optical illusion as well, which was a series of lines creating the optical illusion of curves and dimension. And that one was made with a marker and a ruler.
You filled the whole space with a marker and a ruler?
Yes.
Wow.
One line at a time. So mostly prepping the wall. To build the bus itself, it took me a year. So I purchased the bus, then I took out the seats, I restored the floors, I added the skylights that you see up here with some plexiglass. I put the drywalls, patched them up, painted and painted over until it looked smooth, like filled up all the cracks on top, painted it all white, and then from there I started painting on the walls, on the floor. I also installed 2 ACs, one in the end and over here. So
it's very, very well presented to the public. So what's in the future for you with this bus? Are you going to be taking it somewhere particular? Maybe we can go over there and check it out, or the general public can go see it.
Yes, of course. I will be taking it to Austin, to a festival, and a performance art festival. I'm collaborating with artists that do dance and performance and video interactive art pieces. And it's for the Festera Festival, if I'm not wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the name. And if people would like to learn more about that festival, they can follow me on social media. And then I'm hoping to stop by in the small towns in between El Paso and Austin. This will be in October. And then ideally, I would like to take it to more schools and present this art installation where...
In our area?
In our area, in El Paso, Las Cruces, or in the region nearby. And we can talk about the process of collaborating and combining art and science, because this current art installation is focusing on that.
So that really lends itself to the STEM program, I think,
yes,
right?
It does.
Or what's the STEAM with the art in it, right?
STEAM, yeah.
That's the one that's important. That's the one that we need to focus on. But so this particular piece, how long are you going to have it installed here?
Well, I'm planning to having it installed up until the end of the year. And I'm thinking about, I'm also taking the bus to a festival for the Isleta Independent School District, their fall festival. So it will be there as well.
Oh, very nice.
So people can go visit, and that's the 19th and 18th
October, November?
of October.
Very nice.
I think those are the dates, but 19, 18. But like I said, if anyone would like to go see it, they could go in my social media and they can learn about the dates in there.
And once you're done with this, what's the next idea? Do you know, or that's just something that kind of evolves as a creative process for you?
Well, I just do non-objective, abstract, like that. But for the next art installation, I received the grant from the Museum and Cultural Affairs Department to provide a series of workshops. And through that workshops, I'm going to be teaching about optical illusions with gratings and science. So I'm working on, with engineers from the EN lab right now, and to planning those workshops. And then those workshops will be free and open to the public, and I will be presenting those too as well. And through those workshops, I'm gonna collect all the pieces that people create to make a new art installation inside of the bus.
I wanted to thank Laura for giving us that beautiful experience. So I was astonished when I walked into your bus. I didn't expect that when I walked in. I thought it was an experience that was going to be maybe a little bit more subdued. I was going to see some of this stuff, but I walk in and it was great. So tell us what you're going to be doing with the bus. Where can we see you here in the near future? Maybe you can give us some information on where to contact you.
Yes, of course. I will be having it this October. I will be having a couple events. One is in El Paso, and the other one is in Austin. And I'm hoping to stop by in the small towns in between. So if anyone in between the towns of El Paso and Austin would like me to take the bus, it would be great to contact me. And the easiest way to contact me is through Instagram.
Okay.
My tag is Turon Laura. And then I also have my Facebook, which is Laura Turon Art. My email is info@lt-artdesign.com. So people can contact me in there as well. Also, if people is interested in having me take the bus over to a school to provide a workshop or just showcase it, sometimes is taking the field trip to the school instead of taking the children out, so they get to experience the gallery within in there.
That way they can see that art can come to them as opposed to you having to go see the art. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of get stuck on. You know, wanting, do I really want to go to the museum to go see art? But if it comes to me, then I will be happy to go see the art, right?
Yes, sometimes it's easier for the children just to line up and get in and get to experience the environment, and it can have more reach rather than having to check how can you take, I don't know, 750 children to the museum in one day.
And that's what it's all about, making the connection to the viewer. So I want to conclude by thanking Laura for giving us this wonderful experience both here at her studio and inside her bus, because it was wonderful. I also wanted to invite anybody who wants to be part of this show, Creative Thinkers, to please go ahead and give us a call. You guys can reach me at my personal number, 512-717-2426, or you guys can call the school at EPCC. The number there is 915-831-3722. And you guys can give us a call and talk to us about the show. Also, I wanted to say that maybe in the near future we might be heading on over to Europe. We never know. Take a few students over to see the artwork at the Louvre Museum, maybe in Rome. We never know where we're going to end up. Right, Laura?
Sounds like fun. I'm excited for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you for joining us.